This story is a story of a girl who wasn't afraid of anything. Once there was a young girl and she lived with her father on the outskirts of a small village. But one day her father died, leaving her all alone to look after herself. And the people of the village were very worried that she was living on her own, and they came to see her and they said, "How will you manage all on your own?" And she said, "Oh, I'm fine. I can live here okay. I have my animals near me for company, and my dog here at night. I'm not afraid of anything." Well, the young men of the village heard that she was very attractive. She was a very pretty girl, and soon they came to see her. And they all wanted her to be their girlfriend. But the girl said, "No, I'm quite happy on my own." Well, one day, she was getting ready for the next morning. In those days, you had to get your porridge oats and you had to soak them overnight, so in the morning you could cook your breakfast. But she discovered that her oats needed ground up. She had run out of ground up oats. And she thought, "Oh, I'll have to go to the miller." So she got her sack of oats out the cupboard and she dragged it all the way through the forest until she came to where the miller lived. But the miller's house was all locked up, and the place where all the oats got ground up was all locked up as well. And she thought, "Well, what am I going to do now? I must have my porridge in the morning." So she thought, "I know, there's another miller on the other side of the forest." So she took her big sack of oats and she dragged it all the way through the forest, even in the dark. She wasn't afraid of meeting any animals in the forest because she was brave and she was strong. And when she got to the next miller's house, she found that the mill was all locked up, but there were lights on in the miller's house. So she knocked on the door and she said, "Please, will you grind up my oats for me? I need them for my breakfast in the morning." And the miller said, "Oh no," he said, "I never go into the mill house after dark because there's a scary goblin comes to that place." And the girl said, "A scary goblin? I'm not afraid of anything. Give me the key and I'll go in and I'll grind up the oats myself." And the mill owner said to his wife, he said, "Now you're a witness. She's going in there on her own to grind up all the oats." And he gave her the key and she went in and she got the mill working. The great big stones went round. They squashed the oats, and soon her bag of oats was all milled. It was all made into little bits so she could make her porridge in the morning. But just as she was finishing, a horrible sight appeared. A little creature with long nails and a spiky nose jumped out. And he was very surprised, because normally when he jumped out, the miller would be there and he would run away screaming. Everybody would run away screaming when they saw this horrible goblin. But the girl wasn't afraid. And she said, "What are you doing here?" And she got a broom and she started bashing him out the way. She bashed him this way and she bashed him that way. She shoved him down so that it became stuck between the two stones. Now, it's very hard to kill a goblin, but she managed to squash him between the two big stones that normally ground the oats. And the goblin was all squishy and all squashy. And he limped off, feeling a bit sorry for himself. "Well, I've got my oats," said the girl. And she went back to the miller. She gave him the key. And he said, "How did you get on?" "Oh, I saw that goblin, but he didn't frighten me." And she got her sack of milled oats and she dragged it back through the forest. And she had her porridge the next day. Well, the word spread all about this girl and how she was so brave that she wasn't afraid of anything, not even a horrible goblin. Well, there was one young lad in the village who was a bit disappointed to hear this, because he was secretly in love with the girl. And he hoped that one day she would need someone to maybe help her out. And he wanted to be the one that helped her. But one day he was walking past her house and he heard a screaming noise. And he went in and he said, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And there was a girl standing on top of the kitchen table, screaming.
It's a rat. Isn't it?
The young man leaned against the door and he watched the girl screaming because it wasn't a rat, it was a wee mouse in the corner. And he said, I thought you were the girl who wasn't afraid of anything. And she said, I'm not afraid of anything, but I hate mice. Help, get rid of that mouse. So he got a broom and he swept the mouse out of the house.
I like mice.
There you are. And then he grabbed hold of her and he lifted her down from the table. Do you know what happened next? What do you think happened next?
Me. I know.
He gave her a big kiss and they were married the very next week. Well, from then on, if there was anything big and scary, the girl would look after it. But if there was any wee mouse running about the house, it was her husband's job to chase it away. And that's the end of the story about the girl who wasn't afraid of anything except mice.
This end of part 2.